Hey Virgo, welcome to April 2020. Quite the year, right? And honestly, your sign's full moon to me kind of set a lot of this off. Which, I don't mean to make light of anything that's been going on, but I think for you, Virgo, dude, I pulled the Ace of Swords. And I think when I think about you in connection with what's going on collectively, I think about, interesting, we'll get to that. I think about the fact okay, lots of intensity is happening. I think about the fact that Virgos, in all their meticulousness, what they're really trying to do is to hope for the best for everyone, really. Oh, I love this energy. And it's like you have part of your, perfectionism is just seeing how things could be better, and by better I mean you see where people are keeping themselves stuck, you see where people are self-sabotaging, you see where people are just not behaving in the most efficient ways. An Ace of Swords energy, to me, this is a clarifier, this is the truth, this is cutting through all the bullshit finally, this is getting to the root of things in the sense of, it's very blunt. It's very, this is what you've been doing wrong, and this is what you need to do to clean up your act. And so obviously the world has been in a panic, and obviously a lot of things kind of are collapsing as a result. A lot of things are having to shift, a lot of things are having to change. It's kind of like someone pressed a giant reset button on the entire world. Ace of Swords energy coming up for, and again, I'm just saying all that because of the Virgo full moon, which to me was really kind of the catalytic moment where all of this stuff started to unfold. And we're here in April, we have the Ace of Swords, and so for you, I feel like this is just a continual clarifying of not even necessarily your own life, but just getting your bearings on what is happening. And maybe this is partly you helping other people to continue to see the truth. I mean, Virgo, I really feel like you're a sign that is a big helper in the world. And yeah, I think I'm a Cancer, right? And Cancers, we usually kind of get credit for being the nurturers of the zodiac. But as a Cancer who loves Virgos, something that I really admire about Virgos is their ability to be analytical. And that is an air energy right here with the swords, and you're an earth sign, but it's grounded earth energy. It's, you have an ability to kind of, I really want to say something about re-tilling the soil, that it's you're a good gardener of the mind. You're good at seeing where weeds are growing, you're good at seeing kind of what cycles need to be dealt with. So I've gone on for 4 minutes about this Ace of Swords, but I mean, this is to me the overall vibe of this month for you is, I think, really helping others in that sense. It feels a little bit less about you right now to me. We have the Death in reverse, and we have the Five of Coins. I'm curious about the Death in reverse. I'm kind of still taking it in. I think something, obviously, the world is kind of going, again, this is very collective shit. Things have gotten so insane for everyone that, it's hard to not talk about what's going on with everyone within each sign. It's all kind of bleeding together. But you're a Virgo. I think with Death in Reverse and the Five of Coins, I feel like there's a sense of maybe you isolating yourself a little bit more than you need to, whether literally or whether spiritually. With Death in Reverse, I feel like there's a fear of death, and I don't necessarily mean literal death, like getting sick and dying. I mean transformation, and maybe it's like a fear of your own power is kind of what I'm getting, because we had this Ace of Swords, right, where you're kind of like clarifying a lot of situations and seeing through all the bullshit as you always have been, but now it's like people are paying attention to what you have to say. And especially since Virgo's full moon kind of set off this like process of kind of gaining that clarification on where we were all living a life that was unsustainable, it's like maybe you're hiding out to an extent because you're afraid of like the death that you might invoke upon other people. I think that there is a sense of you being a little bit afraid of your own abilities, and maybe not having, and I think you as a Virgo of all people know with great power comes great responsibility. And so I just sense a little bit of a lack of self-trust with this. And maybe a little self-doubt, and maybe to an extent an over-precaution. Or just maybe a little self-flagellation even. And I'm just saying that because of the Five of Coins in relationship with Death in Reverse. It feels like a lot of the death on a spiritual, metaphorical level. I'm trying to be careful. See, I'm like getting into this headspace too, of like I think we're all, but you especially right now, are like being really overly careful, maybe a little overthinky about how you use your words and what you're saying, and if maybe you I don't know. And it's not bad to be mindful of what we say and how we say it and how we deliver messages. But, yeah. That's really what I'm feeling for you, is hesitancy and, like, also overwhelmed with, like, the power of your own responsibility that you have. And this, for example, could just take place in friendships. Maybe you have a friend who's going through a breakup and you like know that person should break up with them, and you're like, break up with them. But then after you say that, you're like, oh, well, maybe I overstepped my boundary, and maybe I, it's like, it's kind of like, I don't want to say you're in a position to, I think you're just wary of, like, playing God, where you do maybe feel your own kind of sense of power that you've always had, but now that you see that you're having an effect on people and that you are kind of changing the world for the better, mind you. In any case, I think you're just not sure how to wield your power. Because another thing with your power, I've gone on about this for a long time now, another thing about your power is that for a long time, people didn't really listen to you. I talked about this in a reading for you a couple months ago about how, like, people don't really listen to you. And now that you have everyone's attention, it's like that kind of a major shift. With Temperance, I feel like there's an integrating of you kind of stepping into this new role where you're more of an authority figure, and where like people are counting on you. Like, I know a Virgo who is in public office, and this Virgo in particular is having to make really, or be a part of a team at least, that's making very big choices that's affecting like thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, right? And so again, that's why I feel this sense of like, am I going to make a wrong move, and how can I, it's like you've wanted all this power this whole time in your life, and now that you have it, there's this need to integrate how to use it. And I don't know that self-reflection is actually the answer for you right now. I don't think more thinking, more mental energy is not really what is required here. I think with temperance, I mean, to me, usually the elements that are being integrated here are fire and water. And what's interesting about that is really, how do you integrate fire and water? You kind of can't. Either the fire turns the water into steam and it evaporates into nothingness, or the water puts out the fire and that becomes nothingness, right? All that death, that fear of death, that nothingness. So and also you're an earth sign, so integrating emotions with creative spark or passion is sort of the opposite of what you do, right? Because what your whole thing is like being grounded in emotion, or in like, having like that foundation of pragmatic. You're very pragmatic, and that's what I love about you. So temperance, I think it's an invitation for you to really take this month of April to process everything that's happened in your own personal life and collectively. Process the fact that you've stepped up into this new chapter. Process the fact that in some ways, even if I sincerely hope not literally, but process the fact that this has been a death rebirth process for you, and that, you are still allowed to trust yourself, that when you leveled up into the position of power that you did, it was because you were qualified. It was because you were the leader you needed. I personally love Hillary Clinton, and I'm not gonna, not say that on my channel, so whatever if you don't like her. But I watched her documentary. She's a Scorpio, but the anecdote still applies to your reading. She was thinking about applying for running for the Senate position, and she was like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't. And she's like, I had to really sit with the fact that it was my fear that was telling me not to run, and not the fact that I didn't want to run. And then someone else said about her, like, she could have had this quiet life of, like, kind of just relaxing and staying home, but she was in the position to be that leader. And so her job as a woman running for public office was larger than her. She was representing all women in a way, because she was like the leader at the forefront of making that change. And that's what I'm saying for you, Virgo, with temperance and with kind of this hesitancy of like claiming this really deep rooted sense of power that you've always been denied, is that you getting this position of power that you're kind of like uncertain how to navigate is also a responsibility you have, not only to be mindful of the choices you make, but just to do the position in the first place, to be willing to take those risks, to be willing to continue to put yourself out there, to learn how to trust yourself and how to integrate a level of ease so that you're not constantly in your head about what you're doing, and you aren't like isolating yourself like with this 5 of coins, but you're putting yourself out there and you're kind of making some moves. But speaking of moves, I don't know that in April now is either the time to make moves, or maybe it's just with this temperance, the focus is on integrating. So these are both cards of forward movement, the Chariot and the Eight of Wands. And this is taking the reins of your life, and this is moving into like swift new directions of kind of like going with the wind in a way. And with both of these energies in reverse, I feel like this is just a reflection and a repetition of everything I've said to you already about your own hesitancy and your own kind of pulling back and your own fear about, like, can I do this? Do I got this? Can I trust myself? And the answer is yes. And when you're asking yourself maybe even like, oh, do I just want like a quieter life? Like maybe I don't want all this responsibility. To bring it back to my anecdote, it's like this is bigger than you in some ways, Virgo. Like we as a society needed you and we weren't listening to you because we didn't want the medicine you had to offer us. But I think the medicine you have to offer us at the end of the day is love. And we have the lovers here. And for this reading, I don't really feel like this is about a love interest for you. I feel like the shit that's going on is like way bigger than our petty yearnings. To bring a smiley face reference, which no one will get, but it's not that romantic love isn't important or that this might not be in connection to a deep romantic partnership that you have, but I really feel like when you're a leader, Virgo, what you're doing is you're leading from your heart and you're ultimately telling everyone like kind of how to clean up their messes because you love them, because you want the best for them, because you see how things could be so much easier, so much more simple. There's a simplicity to kind of the choices that you're trying to make for the world and for yourself and kind of what you're advocating for is this. And that's why I still think it like relates to love, is because I think the Lovers is also not only a card of love, but it's a card of choices we make, tough choices we make. Life is full of tough choices, but you especially are being faced with many tough choices, as I've been talking about kind of incessantly with this, right? And, I mean, to talk about, like, the connection between death and love, too, I mean, it's the fact that death sometimes, like, clarifies what has been an essential and what is most important. And, again, I just feel like there's so much in your reading about simplicity and about kind of making tough choices that are really about clarifying a path towards love and towards harmony and towards like really creating the best situations for everyone involved. So huge ass shit, right? Yeah. It's really about you claiming ownership of the power you've inherited, knowing that the world needs you to spread love. The antidote to fear is love. So have that trust in yourself that you're acting from places of love and making choices out of love, and that because you'll be doing that, you can have a little bit of faith that what you end up doing is going to be the right thing, and therefore you can trust yourself to step up into this leadership position. Alright, Virgo, huge, intense shit, but that's my reading for you, and I love you, and I'll see you in May. Bye!